The ruins were silent. Only the sound of the man's boots echoed as he walked deeper into the broken halls. Dust floated in the air like ghosts, shining in the faint blue light of his lamp. The stone walls were tall and cracked, carved with strange symbols from another time. Nobody had walked here for centuries, nobody. Until now, the man was a human explorer. His name was not important yet. What mattered was the danger around him. He had landed on this planet looking for old knowledge, for answers hidden by an alien race long gone. But he was not alone, he felt it. His skin prickled as if invisible eyes were watching. He stopped. Somewhere in the dark, something moved. A soft scrape, a breath. The man tightened his grip on his light and whispered to himself, "Stay calm. Just shadows. Maybe." But then a figure stepped out. It was small, no taller than a child. Its skin glowed faintly silver under the lamp, its large eyes shining like wet stones. In its trembling hands, the figure held a knife made of alien metal. The blade shimmered with a strange blue fire. The man froze. His heart thumped loud in his chest. He expected the figure to attack, but instead the alien child's lips quivered. Its hands shook so badly the knife almost slipped. The child raised the blade higher, but its eyes were not filled with hate. They were filled with fear, and then something unexpected happened. The knife clattered to the ground. The alien child's knees bent, and it let out a broken sound, a sob. Tears rolled down its face. It covered its mouth with small hands, shaking, as if the weight of the world pressed on its thin shoulders. The human did not move. He only stared. Why would a child cry in front of a stranger? Why carry a knife only to drop it in despair? The silence of the ruins was broken by the sound of the child sobbing. Slowly, carefully, the man crouched. He placed his lamp on the floor so its light was gentle, not harsh. His voice was low, calm. "I will not hurt you." The child looked up, eyes red with tears. It tried to speak, its words broken and rough. Not human language, but close enough to be understood. Hunters. They come." The man's breath caught. "Hunters?" He leaned closer. "Who comes?" The child pointed behind, toward the endless black tunnels. Its whole body shook. Then it whispered again, voice trembling like glass ready to break. "They killed my family. They hunt me now." The man's chest tightened. He had seen many things in his travels, but nothing like this. A lost alien child, armed with nothing but a shaking knife, standing in fear of something worse. The man thought fast. If the child was telling the truth, then danger was near. If the hunters were real, they might be the reason the ruins had been abandoned. And if they could kill the child's people, then even a human might not survive. He extended his hand slowly, palm open. "Come with me. We'll find a way." The child stared, its silver eyes wide. For a long moment it did not move. Then, as if breaking through a wall of fear, it placed its small hand in his. The human helped it stand. Its body was light, fragile, and weak with fear. But in its eyes, a tiny spark of hope flickered. They walked together through the ruins, the man holding his lamp high, the child staying close at his side. The air grew colder. The walls seemed to lean in. Every sound echoed louder than it should. The child whispered again, "They come." "They always come," and then, a sound. The man froze. From deep in the dark halls, a metallic noise rose, a scraping, grinding, clicking sound like claws dragging across stone. Then another, and another. The child gasped, clutching the man's sleeve. Its voice cracked. "Hunters!" The man's blood ran cold. He raised his lamp toward the shadows. At first, nothing, only silence. Then two small red dots appeared in the dark. They glowed faintly. Then two more, then four. Slowly they blinked open like eyes of a beast waking from a long sleep. The man's breath shook. Those were not eyes of animals. They were too perfect, too sharp, too cruel. The child pressed against him, whispering in fear, "Run!" And the sound grew louder, metal scraping, claws tapping, a chorus of mechanical growls. The hunters were real. They were close. The man gritted his teeth. He looked at the child, trembling, weak, but still standing. He knew one thing: he could not leave it behind. He picked up his lamp, pulled the child closer, and whispered, "Stay with me, no matter what." The red lights grew brighter, spreading through the tunnels like stars in a nightmare sky. The scraping grew into a roar, and then silence. For a heartbeat, everything stopped. The man held his breath. The child clung to him. The air was heavy, pressing. Waiting, and in that silence a voice, cold, mechanical, and inhuman, echoed through the ruins. Target found. The man's blood froze. The story had only just begun. The ruins shook with the voice of the hunters. The human's lamp flickered as the sound of claws echoed from the tunnels. The red lights in the dark were moving now, shifting like hungry eyes searching for prey. The child trembled, clutching the man's arm, its silver eyes wide with terror. The man's heart raced. His instincts screamed at him to run, but he forced his voice steady. Move quietly. They turned, stepping carefully through the crumbling hall. The walls were carved with alien runes, glowing faintly as if remembering old power. Dust rained from the ceiling. Every step felt too loud, every breath too sharp. Behind them, the scraping grew louder. The hunters were coming. The child whispered, "They smell fear." They never stop. The man tightened his grip on the lamp. Then we don't give them fear. But even as he said it, he felt the cold sweat on his skin. They passed through a broken doorway into a wide chamber. The roof was cracked open, letting in a pale glow from the sky above. Strange vines grew down the walls, pulsing with faint blue light. It almost looked beautiful. But beauty meant nothing here, only survival. The child tugged at his sleeve, pointing toward a collapsed stairway. Down, safe, maybe. The man nodded. Together they climbed over fallen stone and slid into a hidden passage beneath the chamber. The air grew damp and heavy. The tunnels twisted like the insides of a beast, narrow and dark. The man had to lower his lamp so its glow wouldn't give them away. For a moment only silence followed them. Then, metal struck stone. A hunter's claw scraped against the wall. Close. Too close. The man and child froze. A shadow moved at the edge of the tunnel. For an instant, the lamp's glow caught the shape of something tall, thin, all steel and bone. Its head was smooth and featureless except for burning red eyes. Its body clicked and whirred with every step. The child covered its mouth to stop a cry. The hunter turned, scanning the dark, its red eyes sweeping like searchlights. The man pulled the child close, holding his breath. His heart hammered like a drum. The hunter paused, its head tilted. Then it walked away, the sound of its claws fading. The man exhaled slowly. The child shivered against him, whispering, "They killed my mother, my father. They cut them. No mercy." The human's jaw tightened. He had seen war before. He had seen death. But the pain in the child's trembling voice struck deeper than any wound. He whispered back, "Not you. Not while I stand." The child's small hand gripped his tighter. They moved again, deeper into the tunnels. The air was colder here, heavy with the smell of rust and ash. The man wondered how long this planet had suffered under the machine's shadow. At last they reached a cavern. The ceiling rose high, sharp crystals hanging like teeth. Pools of black water dotted the ground, glowing faintly with alien light. The child collapsed beside one, shaking from exhaustion. The man knelt beside it. "Rest a moment. I'll watch." The child looked up, eyes wet. "Why help me?" "Not your fight," the man thought for a moment. His voice was low but firm. "Because you're alive. Because you deserve to be. That is enough." The child blinked as if those words were strange, as if it had never heard them before. Slowly it nodded, but peace lasted only a breath. A sound echoed, multiple claws striking stone, growing louder. The hunters had found their trail again. The man cursed under his breath. He lifted the child. "We move. Now." They ran through the cavern, splashing through black pools, their reflections breaking in the glowing water. The hunters' voices followed, metallic and sharp. "Target! Target! Eliminate!" The child cried out. "No escape! No escapee!" But the man's eyes burned with fire. There's always escape. Ahead he spotted an opening in the wall, narrow, hidden, half-covered by roots. Without thinking, he shoved the child through first, then followed, scraping his shoulders against sharp stone. Behind them, the hunters entered the cavern. Red lights spread across the crystals, painting the whole place in blood. The sound of claws shook the ground, but the narrow tunnel was too small for the hunters' tall bodies. For now, the humans and child were safe. They crawled until the tunnel widened into another chamber. This one was strange, filled with broken machines, ancient consoles covered in dust. Symbols glowed faintly on the walls. It looked like an old control room. The child's eyes widened. "This, my people's place, safe. Once." The man studied the room. Strange wires ran across the floor, leading to a central pedestal. Something about it felt alive, humming faintly under the dust. He touched the pedestal. It flickered, light sparking weakly to life. Symbols appeared, shifting between alien script and something close to human letters. The child gasped. Control of hunters here. The man's heart raced. If that was true, this place might hold the key to stopping the machines. But before he could study further, the child grabbed his sleeve, eyes wide with terror. A sound echoed down the tunnel they had come from. The hunters were not giving up. They were still coming. The man clenched his fists. They had a moment to rest, maybe minutes at most. He looked at the child, fragile, terrified, but also brave enough to survive alone this long. He knew one thing for certain. This fight was no longer just about survival. It was about ending the hunters once and for all. The child whispered, voice shaking but strong. "They will not stop until I am gone." The man answered, his voice steady as stone. "Then we will stop them first." The chamber shook as claws scraped closer. Red light spilled into the tunnel. The hunters had found them again, and the true battle was about to begin. The walls shook. The human pressed his back against the cold stone, his lamp trembling in his hand. The child clung to him, eyes wide with terror. From the tunnel behind them came the sound of claws scraping rock, slow and steady, like nails tearing through bone. The hunters were near. The man whispered, "Stay behind me." His voice was calm, but inside, his blood raced like fire. The control chamber around them flickered with weak lights. Strange consoles lined the walls, glowing symbols shifting across their cracked surfaces. Dust hung in the air. It felt like a tomb. But this tomb was alive. Alive with the sound of approaching death. Then from the darkness of the tunnel they appeared. The first hunter stepped forward, tall as two men, its body forged from black metal. Its legs bent like an insect's, sharp joints clicking. Its hands ended in claws that scraped against the stone floor, sparks flying. Where its face should have been, there was only a smooth, curved mask with two burning red eyes. The child whimpered. The human felt his breath catch. The hunters looked alive, but not living. They were machines, but machines built with hunger, with cruelty. They moved like predators, each step measured, each sound designed to strike fear. Behind the first hunter came another. Then another. 4 of them entered the chamber, red eyes glowing like blood stars. Their voices were metallic, sharp, without emotion. Target identified, terminate. The man pushed the child behind a broken console. He whispered, "Stay low. Stay quiet." Then he stood tall, his lamp in one hand, a piece of broken metal pipe in the other. A poor weapon, but it was all he had. The hunters moved forward in unison, claws clicking, heads tilting as if studying him. One raised its hand and a blade unfolded from its arm, sharp enough to slice stone. The human's mind raced. He couldn't fight them head-on. He needed something else, something clever. His eyes darted across the chamber, dust, rubble, broken wires sparking faintly. Then he saw it. A section of the ceiling cracked, a heavy slab of stone hanging above. He took a step back, raising his lamp toward the ceiling. His voice was loud, steady, defiant. "Come and get me." The hunters obeyed. They moved quickly, claws stabbing into the floor, metal screeching as they advanced. Their eyes glowed brighter. The man waited until they were beneath the cracked ceiling. Then, with a shout, he hurled the pipe at the weak spot in the stone. The ceiling groaned. For a heartbeat, nothing happened. Then crash. The slab collapsed, falling like thunder. Dust and shards exploded through the chamber. 2 of the hunters were crushed instantly, their bodies screeching as sparks and oil burst from them. The ground shook, the air filled with the stink of burning metal. The child gasped, but 2 hunters remained. They stepped through the rubble, slower but unharmed, their eyes burning brighter with rage. One tilted its head toward the man. "Resistance detected, eliminate." The man cursed under his breath. He grabbed the child and pulled it toward the far side of the chamber. There was another tunnel, narrow, jagged, but open. The hunters gave chase. The human ran, dragging the child with him, his lamp swinging wildly, shadows dancing on the walls. The tunnel narrowed, rocks scraping his shoulders. Behind them, claws struck stone, sparks flying as the hunters forced their way through. The child cried out, "They will never stop. They always come." The man gritted his teeth. His voice was sharp. "Then we keep running until they can't." The tunnel opened suddenly into another cavern. This one was huge, so wide the lamp's light could not touch the far walls. Strange statues stood in the dark, tall alien figures carved from crystal, their faces broken and eroded by time. Pools of water reflected the lamp, glowing faintly like silver mirrors. The man slowed, listening. The hunter's claws still echoed behind them, closer and closer. The child tugged his arm, pointing to the far side of the cavern. There, safe path. They ran again, splashing through the water, the statues looming over them like silent watchers. The hunter's red eyes appeared in the cavern entrance, glowing brighter in the dark. Their voices cut through the silence like knives. No escape. Terminate. The child stumbled, falling into the water. The man pulled it up quickly, holding it tight. Stay with me. The hunters advanced, their reflections stretching across the glowing pools. The human's mind raced again. He needed another trick, another way to slow them down. His lamp caught something in the corner of the cavern. A crystal statue, cracked and leaning, held in place by only a thin pillar of stone. He ran toward it, pulling the child close. At the base of the pillar, he shoved with all his strength. The stone groaned, cracked, and finally broke. The statue fell. It crashed into the water with an explosion of spray, sending waves across the cavern. The hunters staggered, their balance thrown off, their claws slipping on wet stone. The man didn't wait. He grabbed the child and sprinted for the far tunnel. The hunters roared behind them, voices metallic and angry. At last they dove into the narrow passage, the hunter's claws slamming into the stone just inches away. Sparks flew, but the tunnel was too small. The hunters could not follow. The man collapsed against the wall, panting, the child trembling beside him. The echoes of the hunters faded behind, but their voices still whispered like ghosts. Target will not escape. Terminate. Terminate. The man looked at the child, who was still shaking, tears in its eyes. He placed a hand on its shoulder, steady and firm. We will find a way. I promise, the child whispered back, broken but brave. They will never stop. The man's eyes hardened. Then neither will I. And in that moment, in the dark tunnel with the hunters still hunting them, the bond between human and alien child grew stronger. The war had only begun. The tunnel twisted like a serpent. The man moved quickly, lamp in one hand, the child clinging to his other arm. Behind them, the hunters' voices still echoed faintly, metallic and cold, though they were trapped in the larger cavern. For now, the human knew it was only a matter of time before they found another way through. Machines did not grow tired. They did not give up. He slowed, listening. Only silence. Only the drip of water from the cracked ceiling above. The child's small voice broke the quiet. Why you not leave me? Easier for you. The man glanced down. The child's silver eyes were red from crying. Its small frame shook with exhaustion, but still it walked. Still it fought to stay alive. His answer was calm, steady. Because I don't leave children behind. Not on my world. Not anywhere? The child blinked, confused. But not your people. Not human. The man gave a short breath, almost a laugh. Doesn't matter. Alive is alive. That is enough. For the first time, the child looked at him with something more than fear, a flicker of trust. They walked until the tunnel opened into another chamber. This one was different, less natural, more built. The walls were lined with smooth metal panels, half broken and covered in dust. In the center stood a massive pedestal, its surface glowing faintly like a heart still beating after centuries. The child gasped. Control, place of my people, the man studied it. Strange wires ran across the floor, leading into the pedestal. Symbols floated across its surface, shifting between alien runes and patterns he couldn't read. But the hum of power was real. He stepped closer. Control of what? The child hesitated, trembling. Of hunters. Long ago, my people built them. To guard, to protect. But they changed. They turned. They kill everything now. The man's chest tightened. Machines once meant for protection had become monsters. He had seen this story before, on Earth in human wars. Tools always became weapons. The child's voice grew softer. My mother, my father, they try to stop hunters. But hunters learn. They kill them. Tears welled in the child's eyes, spilling down its glowing cheeks. The man knelt. He placed a hand gently on the child's shoulder. Listen to me. You are not alone anymore. Do you understand? As long as I breathe, you are not alone. The child trembled, then nodded slowly. Its small hand reached up, gripping his larger one. A bond was forming, something stronger than fear. But before they could rest, the chamber shook. A loud clang echoed from a distant tunnel. The hunters were still coming. They were breaking through. The man's jaw tightened. He looked at the pedestal. Can this stop them? The child wiped its tears, staring at the glowing console. Maybe, but... Need key. What key? The child hesitated. Then, in a whisper, it said, Me. The man's eyes widened. The child pointed to its chest. I carry code. My blood, my DNA, last of my kind. Hunters know this. That is why. They hunt me. The human's heart sank. It all made sense now. The machines wanted to erase the final chance of stopping them. The child was not just prey, it was the last hope. Another crash shook the chamber. Dust rained from the ceiling. The hunters' voices echoed through the metal halls. Target located, eliminate. The man stood, pulling the child behind him. Then we fight until you can use it. The child's eyes widened in fear. Fight? No. I am small, weak. The man's voice was hard but steady. No, you are alive. That means you are strong enough. Strength is not in size, it is here. He tapped his chest. In heart. In will. The child stared at him as if trying to understand. Then it nodded. The hunters burst into the chamber, 3 of them, tall and sharp, red eyes burning like fire. They stepped through the doorway, claws dragging sparks across the floor. Their metallic voices roared, Resistance ends here, terminate. The man raised his pipe again, standing tall. His voice was loud. You'll have to take me first. The hunters charged. The man swung his pipe, striking one in the arm. Sparks flew. The machine staggered, but its claw cut across his side. He grunted in pain but stood firm. Another hunter lunged and he rolled aside, dragging the child with him. The child screamed, terrified. But the man's words echoed in its mind. Strength is here. In will. Something inside the child shifted. Its eyes glowed brighter. It raised its small hand toward the console, pressing its palm against the surface. The pedestal came alive. Light surged across the chamber. Symbols burned brighter. The floor shook as the old systems roared awake. The hunters froze for a moment, scanning, their red eyes flickering. The child cried out, voice echoing, Stop them. The console responded. Beams of blue light burst from the walls, striking one of the hunters. The machine screamed, sparks flying, its body collapsing in pieces. The man's eyes widened. It's working. But the other 2 hunters pressed forward, claws slashing. The man fought desperately, swinging, dodging, holding them back as best he could. The child pressed harder on the console, tears streaming down its face, whispering, Please, please. The console pulsed again. Another hunter froze, its body locking as if chained, then collapsed lifeless. Only one remained. It turned its glowing eyes toward the child, ignoring the human. It knew the truth. The child was the key. The man saw it charge. He stepped in front, raising his pipe, ready to take the full force. But before the claw could strike, the child screamed, loud, powerful, filled with all its pain and fear. The console answered. A wave of energy burst out, slamming into the final hunter, throwing it across the chamber. It hit the wall with a crash, its body sparking and twitching before going still. Silence. The man panted, holding his bleeding side. The child collapsed, exhausted but alive. The console dimmed, its lights fading to a gentle glow. The man knelt beside the child, lifting its small body gently. His voice was soft but firm. You see? You are stronger than you know. Together we can fight them. Together we can win. The child looked at him, tears and sweat on its face, and whispered, Not alone. Anymore. The man nodded. Never again. And in that moment, in the glow of the ancient chamber, human and alien child were no longer strangers. They were a team. A family born from fear and fire. But deep in the tunnels, more hunters stirred. The war was far from over. The chamber was quiet now. The human leaned against the cracked wall, breathing heavy. Blood darkened his side where the hunter's claw had cut him, but he pushed the pain away. The child sat near the glowing pedestal, its small hands trembling. Blue light pulsed faintly under its skin, fading as the console dimmed. For a long moment, only silence filled the room. The hunters were gone. For now. The man broke the quiet. His voice was low, rough from exhaustion. You did it. You stopped them. The child looked up, silver eyes wet but shining. Not stopped. Only slowed. More will come, the man frowned. How many are there? The child's face fell. Its voice shook. Too many. Hundreds, maybe thousands. Hunters everywhere waiting in the dark. The man's chest tightened. If that was true, this planet was more than a graveyard. It was a battlefield waiting to rise again. He stepped closer to the pedestal. Its surface still flickered with symbols, broken and incomplete. He touched it gently. This machine, it listened to you. Why? The child hesitated, then placed its hand over its chest. Because of me. Because of what I carry. What do you mean? The child's voice was soft, almost a whisper. Long ago, my people made hunters with our own code. Blood, mind, spirit, all linked. We controlled them. But then hunters broke free. They learned. They turned against us. It lowered its head, tears falling again. My family, last of those who carried the key. When they died, it passed to me. The human understood. The child wasn't just a survivor. It was the last weapon against the machines. The hunters weren't just hunting to kill, it was hunting to erase. To end the final chance of shutting them down. The man knelt in front of the child, his eyes steady. So you can stop them all. You can shut them down. The child shook its head quickly. Not alone, too weak. The control places are broken, scattered. My people built many. But most are dead. Only this one still breathes. The man's voice grew hard. Then we protect it. We fight here. We finish this. The child's eyes widened, filled with fear. No, if we stay, we die. Hunters are endless. They will break this place. Crush it. Crush me. The man's jaw tightened. He wanted to argue, to fight, but deep inside he knew the child was right. The machines were too many. This control chamber was only a small piece of a larger war. Still, he would not give up. Then where? How do we end them? The child hesitated. It looked at the pedestal, at the glowing lines of code across its surface. There is a source, a core, deep under the ruins, where hunters were born, where their mind lives. The human's heart beat faster, and if we reach it? The child's voice trembled. I can end them. All of them, but if I fail, hunters will kill me. And you. The man stood tall, his shadow long in the glow of the console. Then we don't fail. The child looked up at him, eyes wide. For a moment, it saw not just a human explorer, but something stronger, something unbroken. But the silence ended quickly. From the tunnels came the sound of metal striking stone, louder, closer, many claws. Many voices. Target located, advance, terminate, the man cursed under his breath. He turned to the child. They're coming again. The child's small hands shook. Too many. They will take me. The man's eyes burned. His voice was steady, a rock in the storm. They will not. Not while I stand. He grabbed a broken metal shard from the floor, holding it like a blade. His blood still dripped. His body screamed in pain, but his spirit was fire. The child's chest glowed faintly again as it touched the console. Its voice shook. I can call power, but not enough to stop all. Only to open path. A way down. To core. The man nodded. Then do it. I'll hold them. The console lit up again, brighter this time. Symbols spun across its surface and the ground shook. A hidden door cracked open on the far wall. A stairwell leading into the deep dark below. The hunters burst into the chamber. 6 of them. Their red eyes blazed. Their claws tore at the walls. Their voices roared. End resistance, terminate. The man stepped in front of the child, pipe raised like a sword. He shouted, voice echoing, come and try. The hunters charged. The child cried out, pushing its power into the console. The stairwell glowed with blue light, opening wider. Go now. The man grabbed the child, dragging it toward the stairwell, but the hunters were fast. One leapt, claws outstretched. The man spun, striking it across the head with his weapon. Sparks burst, the machine staggering back. Another claw slashed his arm. Pain ripped through him, but he kept running. He shoved the child through the stairwell, then leapt after it. The console pulsed one last time. The door slammed shut behind them, sealing the hunters out. For now. Darkness swallowed them. The child trembled, holding the man's hand tight. Its voice was a whisper in the endless dark. Down there, the core waits. But hunters will never stop. They will follow. The man's voice was calm, steady. Then let them follow. We'll finish this where it began. They walked into the deep where the true heart of the hunters waited, and as they descended, the bond between them was no longer fragile. It was unbreakable. The stairwell seemed endless. Step after step, the human and the child descended into the deep. The air grew colder, heavier, filled with the scent of rust and ash. The man's lamp flickered, casting long shadows across the walls, shadows that twisted like claws reaching from the dark. At last, the stairs ended. They stood inside a vast cavern. The ceiling was so high it vanished into blackness. The floor was smooth metal, covered in glowing lines that pulsed like veins carrying light. And at the center of it all was a towering machine, an enormous sphere half buried in the floor, glowing with red fire. The core. The child's silver eyes widened in fear and wonder. This, where they were born. The hunter's mind, all connected here. The man stared at it, jaw tight. He could feel the power radiating from the core like heat from a furnace. The red glow pulsed in rhythm with his heartbeat as if it were alive, watching. The child's small voice shook. If I touch it, if I give code, hunters will end. All will sleep forever. The man looked at the child, his face lit by the red glow. And if you fail? The child lowered its head. Then core will take me, break me, and hunters will win. The man placed a firm hand on its shoulder. Then we don't fail. Not while I'm here. But even as he spoke, a sound rose from the tunnels above, scraping, claws striking metal, voices echoing. Target below. Advance. Terminate. The hunters were coming. Many of them. The man's blood turned to ice, but his eyes burned hotter. He pulled the child behind a piece of broken machinery. Listen, you do what you must. You touch that core, you finish this. Leave the rest to me. The child shook its head quickly, tears in its eyes. No, if you fight, you die. They too many. The man gave a faint smile, though his face was pale from blood loss. Maybe, but if I stand, you live. And if you live, we all live. The child stared at him, heart pounding. In that moment, it understood something it had never known. Why humans were feared, why they survived where others fell. Not because they were strongest, but because they refused to surrender. The ground shook. From the tunnels, the hunters spilled into the cavern. Dozens of them. Their red eyes lit the darkness like a storm of fireflies. Their claws clanged against the floor. Their metallic voices boomed in unison. Core breach detected. Eliminate target. Eliminate resistance. The man stepped forward, pipe in hand. His body was broken, bleeding, but his spirit was steel. He shouted, voice echoing across the chamber. You want the child? You'll have to go through me. The hunters charged. The man swung his pipe, striking the first machine across its face. Sparks exploded. Another hunter lunged, claws slashing. He rolled aside, pain ripping through his side, but he did not fall. He struck again, fighting with pure will. The child watched, trembling, tears falling. Its hands glowed faintly, its body pulling power from the core itself. It whispered to itself, voice shaking, "Strength is here, in heart, in will." Then it stood. The child placed its glowing hand against the core. The cavern shook. The core pulsed brighter, its red glow mixing with blue light from the child. The hunters froze for a moment, their eyes flickering. Then they roared, charging faster, desperate to stop the child. The man fought like fire. He blocked, dodged, swung with every last ounce of strength. A claw slashed across his arm, another across his leg, but still he stood. Still he fought. His voice was a growl. "You will not take them." The child cried out as energy surged through its body. The core's voice whispered in its mind, cold and sharp. "You are mine. Give yourself. Surrender." The child clenched its teeth, shaking, remembering the human's words. "You are not alone anymore," its silver eyes blazed. "No, I will not give." Blue light burst from the core, spreading across the cavern like a wave. The hunters staggered, their red eyes flickering, their movement slowing. But still they pushed forward, claws tearing the floor, refusing to stop. The man fell to one knee, blood dripping, but he forced himself back up. He stood in front of the child like a wall, pipe raised high, screaming, "You'll never win." The core's glow grew brighter, the chamber shaking as if the planet itself was tearing apart. The child's voice rang out, strong now, filled with power. "Almost. Almost there." The hunters closed in, their claws just inches away. The man roared, swinging with everything he had, holding them back as the core's countdown reached its peak. 98, the cavern thundered with metal and screams, with fire and sparks. 6, 5. The child's body shook with energy, light pouring from its skin. 3. The man stood bleeding, broken but unyielding. 1. The core exploded with light and everything turned white. The world was white. The human blinked, his ears ringing. For a moment he thought he was dead. He felt nothing, saw nothing, only light. His body trembled, weak and broken from the fight. Then the light faded. Slowly the cavern returned. The walls still stood, but cracks glowed faintly with blue fire. The massive core pulsed weakly, its red glow gone. The hunters lay scattered across the floor, silent, lifeless, their eyes dark. The war machines were dead. The man fell to his knees, his chest heaving. His pipe slipped from his hand, clattering on the metal floor. He pressed a bloody hand against the ground, trying to steady himself. "Is it done?" he whispered. Then he heard a small sound, a weak breath, a trembling voice. "Still here." The man turned. The child lay on the floor near the core, its body glowing faintly blue, its small frame shaking. Its silver eyes opened slowly, looking at him with exhaustion but also relief. The man crawled toward it, ignoring the pain in his body. He lifted the child gently into his arms. Its skin was hot, its heart beat fast, but it was alive. "You did it," the man said softly, his voice breaking. "You ended them." The child's lips trembled into a weak smile. "Not me, us." The man felt a sting in his chest, deeper than any wound. This small alien, once trembling with fear, had stood against the storm. It had not broken. Together they had won. But the silence was heavy. The core was not dead, only sleeping. The man could feel it, its power still humming faintly beneath the floor. The child sensed it too. Its voice was quiet. "Core is weak now, but not gone. Someday it could wake." The man looked at the endless cavern, at the dead hunters lying like broken statues. "Then we'll be ready, because humans don't run, not forever." The child blinked at him, confused but curious. Why you fight so hard? For me? For world not yours?" The man thought for a moment, then smiled faintly, though his face was pale with pain. "Because that's what it means to be human. We don't just survive for ourselves. We fight for others, for those who can't." The child's silver eyes shimmered. Slowly it whispered, "Then humans are special." The man gave a tired laugh. "Not special, just stubborn." They both sat in silence for a while, the cavern echoing with nothing but the sound of their breathing. For the first time since landing on this cursed world, the man felt peace. But peace was fragile. The child leaned against him, whispering, "I am last of my kind. Alone." The man shook his head firmly. "Not alone. Not anymore. You're with me now, and I don't leave family behind." The child blinked as if the word family was something new, something precious. Tears welled in its eyes, but they were not tears of fear. They were tears of hope. The man pulled himself to his feet, carrying the child in his arms. His body hurt, his blood still dripped, but his steps were steady. Together they began to climb back toward the surface. The tunnels were silent now. No claws scraping stone. No voices whispering in the dark. The hunters were gone. The ruins felt different, less like a tomb, more like a grave that had finally been laid to rest. At last, they reached the open sky. The night above was filled with stars, endless and bright. The air was cold but fresh. The man lowered the child to its feet. Together they looked up at the heavens where thousands of worlds waited. The child whispered, "What now?" The man smiled faintly. "Now we live. We heal. And maybe one day we teach others what happened here so it never happens again." The child nodded slowly. "And if hunters return?" The man's eyes hardened, his voice calm but sharp. "Then they'll learn what every enemy of humanity learns. We don't break. We don't bow. We fight until the last breath." The child stared at him, its small hand slipping into his. "Then I will fight too." The man squeezed its hand, pride filling his chest. "That's the spirit." Together they walked toward the distant light of his ship. Their shadows stretching across the ruins. Behind them, the core slept deep beneath the planet, its red fire gone, its whispers silent. But if it ever woke again, if the hunters ever rose once more, the galaxy would not face them alone. It would face them with a human, and with an alien child who had learned courage. For now, though there was peace, the man looked down at the child, and for the first time in a long time, he allowed himself a real smile. "Come on, kid. Let's go home." The stars above burned brighter as if the universe itself was watching. And somewhere in those stars a new story of survival and hope had begun.